Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings. Today on the program, wow, the Electoral College. No wonder the radical liberal commune socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, wants to try to do away with the Electoral College. It is setting itself up for a monumental landslide for one of the candidates in the race. Do you care to wager who that candidate is? I have news for you. I'll give you a hint. This particular candidate doesn't cackle. The Electoral College and every state in the union trending up for President Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't take anything here for granted. We're not being complacent. It is incredible to see these numbers and what's happening. Kamala Harris, the campaign sinking. And that's why we have A-listers on the radical liberal side coming out trying to bail her out. Ladies and gentlemen, the right side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey everybody, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right side with Doug Billings, right side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to the Right Side with Doug Billings.
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and His divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. I got news for you. We are in a great place, you and I. We are in a great place with regards to what's happening, what's going on, and with regards to the campaigns that we're looking at with President Trump and Kamala Harris. They are a sinking ship over at Team Harris, and they know it. The radical left hierarchy knows it. Everyone involved can see it. Ladies and gentlemen, the Right Side with Doug Billings. Please make sure that you're subscribed, that you're following, that you're watching, so that you know when we're coming to you. You can see us on X. We like you when you're on X. We like you when you're on YouTube and Facebook and Rumble. All of those platforms, we are there. This is where you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of podcast land, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't take that for granted. Less than 2 weeks ago, I pointed out we are experiencing what is developing into a massive landslide or President Trump. I am not jinxing it. I'm not taking anything for granted. We have a lot of work to do. And of course, I always tell you that we do not become complacent in all of this. Every state in the union, you can't deny the math and the numbers. Every state is trending up for President Trump. Now, listen to those words, because what I'm not telling you, I'm not promising that Trump is going to win every state. But quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins most of them. What I am saying is President Trump is trending up. He's trending up in every state. Means he's earning more votes than he was in each of the states than he did in 2016 and in 2020. And the Kamala Harris campaign is astonishingly as unqualified as she is. They can't run a campaign. They don't know how to win. It's as if they are trying to lose. Everything they do, every commercial they make is nothing but cringe. And every commercial they make, every public appearance that Kamala participates in, every town hall, drives people away from her. It's undeniable. And you know, even if you love Kamala, you know that's true. People have come up to me lately a lot and said, hey, Doug, what's up? Because it's as if they're trying to lose this thing. What in the world's going on? And I understand why people would say that, why they would wonder that. It's not just commercials on television and radio. It's the posts that her campaign puts up on social media. They're terrible. It all goes to prove to you what I've said from the moment that this radical liberal hierarchy bequeathed the nomination to her. The presidency is not their number one goal. I'll let you kind of catch your breath there. Close your mouth, your jaw's hitting the floor. The presidency is not their number one goal. Now, they'll take it if they can get it, absolutely. But the radical liberal number one goal this political season is that they want to move the social and political needles in this country as far to the left as possible. I've told you this before. I was the first one to say it. This, you couple that with the fact that nobody likes Kamala Harris, and people view Tim Walz as the poster man for the wussification of the American male. You couple all of this, you combine it all together, and you get a mass amount of people, millions of them, who have been driven away from that campaign, and they've come over to the right side. It's another very real component to this year's presidential election season. That is that millions, dozens of millions of people are waking up to the anti-America threat of what this commu-socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, means, and their component of globalism. And this globalism is put forth in America not just by the radical commu-socialist movement, but it's also put forth by the rhino class, especially those rhinos in Washington, D.C., but also in your counties where you live in your states. This globalist rhino movement is a problem for us. Now, the good news is, as I've said, we're waking up to it. We know that it's a problem. We know how to deal with it, and we're beginning to learn how to identify the members of the rhino class. So, number one, you've got the commu-socialist the liberal movement, this commu-socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. And then you have the second component, the rhino class of Republicans. These are the people in the Republican movement who refuse to join up with the MAGA movement. Rhinos. And they'll lose sleep and their heads will explode when because a lot of them watch this program. You know, you've got people out there. I mean, in a state that I'm familiar with, Kansas, Pat Proctor is a rhino. A rhino is someone who does not admit to you that there is an election integrity issue in this country. That's a problem. That's a rhino. The radical left commu-socialist movement and the rhino class both comprise what we've been calling the deep state in America. And of all of his accomplishments, everything that he's done, all of the benefits that he has brought to our republic, I believe that his greatest contribution, and I'm talking now about President Trump, by the way, all of his greatest accomplishments are dwarfed by this one. President Trump is the one who pulled back the curtain and identified the breadth, the width, and the depth of the evil that is the deep state. I can't remember really before President Trump ever discussing the literal term deep state, as I do so much with President Trump now. So he pulled back the curtain. He identified it for us. I think that's perhaps the greatest accomplishment, the greatest gift that he has given us. We have woken up to the deep state and to their globalist agenda. So we have the Commu-Socialist Party, the rhino class, the coalition that they are, the coalition of evil that these two groups are and what they represent. They will stop at nothing, including assassination attempts, to get rid of President Trump, to stop his ascendancy into the White House one more time. The deep state and their partners within this anti-America globalist movement are all about stopping him at all costs. We've seen it since the moment he came down the escalator and denounced his candidacy for 2016. America stands in the way of the globalist agenda. And President Trump, making America great again, stands in the way of the globalist agenda, the radical left liberal commu-socialist agenda. The sinister depths of what they would do, of where they will go, they've been on display to us in full view since 2020. We saw it when they paid people to dress up as MAGA supporters on January 6th and incite violence at our Capitol. That was them, Pelosi, Schumer, Schiff, Jamie Raskin, the whole Pence, all of them, and getting Capitol Police, getting them, some of them, not all of them, some of them on the take that day to let people in. But it was the radical liberal movement and elements of Black Lives Matter and Antifa that dressed up as MAGA supporters and incited the violence. The tapes on that are very clear. We've seen them. To deny that is to be simply intellectually immature and or a blind partisan. We saw this evil on display when they raided President Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago. We saw this coalition of evil on display with 4 indictments and various other charges and the waging of lawfare against President Trump for the last, well, again, since 2016. It was at that moment when the entire resist movement was born. Maxine Waters and all of them calling President Trump illegitimate and not the real president. All of those convictions, all of those charges waged in lawfare, every one of them, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be overturned or thrown out. You can count on that. Bookmark this and look back on it. You'll see every one of them. We especially saw this coalition of evil take place on July 13th with an assassination attempt of President Trump. We saw another one just a few weeks later on the golf course at Mar-a-Lago. They are deadly, no pun intended, serious about stopping him. And for those of you who watch this show on a regular basis, you know that I am an optimist with regards to the resiliency and the intellectual maturity of conservative Americans. I know that you all get this. You know what I'm talking about, especially when you are given truth and fact. I have no doubt of your ability to see through the muck of it all and find and arrive at the truth if you're given a set of facts. The thing is, we have in this country a radical left legacy media who is in the back pocket of this Communist Socialist Party who will not give us the truth. So you depend on me and this program to give you the truth and the best state of play in America that is out there. That's why you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of podcast land. And there will always be those who are blind partisans, who are crippled by chronic intellectual immaturity, that don't have discernment, that don't do anything with facts except to default to the radical left liberalism that is possessing them. And although we can attempt to try to help those people, we also know that we can't save everyone from that very lack of understanding or discernment from which I'm talking. The truthful state of play in America will always evade some people. But there's a great hope out there. When you look at all of their plans, all of their agenda items, and I know that chaos and crisis are key components of whatever plan they put forward. Look, every one of their policies and platforms has put forth nothing but chaos and crisis. But when we look at what they've planned for President Trump, the resist movement, getting him disqualified. I mean, they don't want him to be dog catcher, much less. They don't want him to be eligible for any public office. But their plans regarding all of the things that they've done to try to do that have failed spectacularly. They have failed, not been able to do it. Every attempt they've put forth to derail President Trump has failed. I don't know what kind of actions they're going to take and get into on November 5th, if anything. I don't lose a lot of sleep nor spend time on, what's going to be the big event. What's going to be? Look, I do know that there are people out there that doubt there will be an election. Disassociate yourself or try to help them. There is already going on an election in America. Early voting numbers are the largest that this republic has ever seen. And because of that, I'll talk about it just briefly. I've spoken about this on other shows, but because of these record-shattering numbers of early voters, we may well know by dinner time on election night who is the president. But I know that throughout this entire republic, there are grassroots conservative MAGA patriots who have awakened by the multiple dozens upon millions of you. And that's where my hope is. Will they try to cheat? Yes, that's their nature. But there's more of you than them. And more of you now are awake. And you're keeping an eye. You're keeping an eye on polling stations. You're alerting authorities of potential fraud and thievery. et cetera, et cetera. You see, the irony of all of this is that the radical liberal commie socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, has gone so far to the left, so far, and has created so much chaos and crime that they've done and said so much that is just cringe. And they've done and said so much that's just pathetic that they're driving people away from them in record massive numbers. And with early voting, as I was just talking about, setting all-time record highs, and the exit polling clearly indicating that President Trump has the advantage in early voting, I think by 9 o'clock Central Time, we may well know pretty well who the winner is here. Certainly by midnight. I mean, that's where my head is. So I am not laden with fear that this thing is going to go on for days and days. I know liberal states have been making a lot of waves, some liberal states, but with these early numbers coming in and with the vast majority of these numbers in Trump's favor, I'm not as panicked about that. We need to keep vigilant. Absolutely. We don't become complacent. I'll say it a million times. Nothing of this hope of which I'm speaking is meant to draw you in to a sense of complacency. We have a lot of work to do. We've got a long way to go before we have recovered this republic from the radical left commune socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. The presidency is just one office. You've got radical liberal rhinos and commune socialists in your home state, in the county in which you live. We need to root them out as well. So the other day, I was talking about how President Trump was leading in the demographic, the Latino demographic. Upwards of 12 points, mind you. It's gone up since the other day. When you reach those kinds of numbers, I think that you're looking at states in play that have not been in play. And I see Crystal Hall out there on the text. Crystal, I think I am right, and I appreciate you chiming in and for that text. I think I am. I know that you're in New York and you're surrounded by liberals, and they haven't changed their mind, but you're convinced. You've got two Robert F. Kayers to vote Trump. Well, that's good. You see, Crystal Hall she was in the text, the chat room here for the program, and she just commented. That's good. That's what I mean. You see, that's grassroots. Crystal's just given us a great example of that. We talk people, we talk reason and rationality. We're not off on the kook fringe of things, and we welcome them in. And I'm going to talk about RFK Jr. and Tulsi and Elon here in a moment because they're part of this dynamic. They're part of the equation. When with regards to Latinos, I really think that with those kinds of numbers, when you've got 12 points of a lead, look at the swing states. I mean, states that have a high population of Latinos: New Mexico, Colorado, California. Yes, I'm saying California. Now, look, California is more red than you think, ladies and gentlemen. But New Mexico, Colorado, California, Virginia, and New Hampshire. I mean, my gosh, even Minnesota with a large Latino population. Every state with a large Latino population becomes a swing state for President Trump, believe it or not. And you've seen the radical left bring out tier one big names in their movement: Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, all of these celebrities, giving concerts. And so, by the way, don't lose any sleep over the celebrities that are coming out and endorsing Kamala Harris. They don't bring a net gain of any new voters to Kamala. Anybody who was already following a liberal, Bruce Springsteen, is already going to vote for Kamala. Someone, a level-headed, intellectually mature person who can see what's going on in this country and who may be a Bruce Springsteen fan, is not going to go, oh, well, since Bruce is voting for Kamala, I guess I will too. No, we're smarter than that. And so they can trot out all the celebrities they want, but they're not bringing any new votes to the Harris campaign. You can count on that. And why New Hampshire? What in the world is going on in New Hampshire? Because when they do internal polling and even some external polling, Harris and Trump are tied. That's why Joe Biden was in New Hampshire. That's why Barack Obama is going there and other big names in the radical left movement. which indicates to us that there are far more many people who once identified as Democrats, but who are now realizing that that party no longer exists. That's, again, why people like Elon Musk, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard are so important and who have had such a dramatic effect this election season. Those three people, ladies and gentlemen, Elon Musk, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, represent 20 million new votes coming over to the right side and President Trump. 20 million reasonable people who followed them, who liked them, who may have been independent or Democrat, going, God, you know what? Elon's right. RFK Jr. is right. Tulsi's right. The Democratic Party doesn't exist anymore. I'm going to vote Trump. And you know what? Even if it's just for this election season, that's what's happening. And that's why the pathway in the Electoral College is indicating landslide for President Trump. And we may be really in store for a titanic shift. And, I want to take just a moment. Back in 2020, you remember the midterm we had. Everybody making a prediction about this gigantic red wave that was going to take place in 2020. And the red wave didn't happen. But wait a minute. It didn't happen in Washington, D.C., that is. But everywhere else throughout this republic, there was an enormous red tsunami. At the grassroots level within your state, ladies and gentlemen, chances are good that you experienced it. It doesn't get reported. Of course, the legacy media isn't going to report it, but it happened. We got upwards of 180 seats, and the left, got about 75. We had a huge red wave at the state level in 2020. So take your eyes off D.C. and forget about it. Vote for the president, of course, Trump and Vance. But as far as looking to Washington, D.C. for any red wave or big change, no, change never starts in Washington, D.C. It always starts at the local grassroots level. So we're seeing a continuation of that local grassroots tsunami right now in 2024. Just as millions of people were awakened during that momentum back in 2020, those people and multiple dozens of millions more are waking up now in 2024. And that's the wellspring of my hope. And that's my optimism, because I believe in you people. I believe in we the people and in American MAGA patriots. And I believe that you can identify chaos, that the coalition of evil, that is to say the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, has thrust upon us. Nothing but chaos. And it has been on purpose. And I see Patricia Okera, and Patricia, I hope I pronounced your name right. Patricia, you're in PA, in Butler, PA. Wow. And I think you are going red. You're in Butler, PA. You're right there where the assassination attempt was thwarted by the hand of God, I might add. And Patricia, I think Pennsylvania. Now keep on working. Keep on bringing family on board and friends and coworkers. Don't be shy. Keep Pennsylvania going. Scott Pressler is out there. He's done a heck of a good job. The blue wall, you're part of it in Pennsylvania. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. That's the blue wall. Traditionally going for the Democrats need the blue wall in order to win. Kamala Harris does not have the blue wall this year. I have said on other shows, and I've said Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, this time going for Trump. That's why she's panicked. That's why their campaign is panicked. That's why you're seeing Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and all of the others being paraded out in front of us, because they've seen the numbers. They see it and they know it. But there are good people throughout this republic. John and Jane Doe on the streets. I say this to you often enough too. John and Jane Doe think that they're Democrats. They're going, this is not what I signed up for. Thank you very much. I'm going to vote for Trump because I don't know what this is, but this is not the Democratic Party that I belong to. And multiple millions of people coming to our side. So in closing today, let me just put my own spin on this. And I hearken back to General Douglas MacArthur in what he said, during his time. And it's relevant today, too, because you people represent our great hope. We the people, and it's above and beyond just President Trump as well, friends. In the off chance that Trump doesn't prevail. Now, I don't believe that for a moment. I put out there in the universe that Trump is going to win, and he's going to win by huge margins. But he is not the reason that America will survive. America will survive for a couple of reasons. One is the divine providence of God. Number two is the founding fathers and their intent, the way that they crafted, because of their inspiration from God, the founding documents of this republic. And then third, we the people, thank you very much, are going to be the final say as to whether or not America fades off into the history books. But America is not on her deathbed. We're in one heck of a nightmare, I'll give you that. But the good news, again, is that everyone always wakes up for nightmares. So these aren't MacArthur's own words. I've taken General MacArthur's words and I've made them my own to a certain degree, but I get the inspiration for this from him when he looked out on the American landscape, just as we do today. I think, the time for freedom, ladies and gentlemen, the time for freedom has arrived. The patriots among us, the MAGA movement, has begun this noble fight. President Trump has revamped the conservative movement in America, and I'm urging all of you, give your utmost, work hard so that liberalism, which is, as you know, our adversary, that we understand through your actions and that this nation belongs now to the MAGA movement. This is the conservative, godly movement that the divine providence of God and the founders intended for America. But may the unwavering essence of our divine creator, God, and the founding fathers guide us all. And I hope that you have that sense among you as we advance this cause that we all love, and we stand up to the tyranny that has been cascaded down upon us by the radical left. Seize every chance to act on this, my friends. Don't let anyone escape your kind and well-informed presence with regards to talking about the two choices that we have here. Tyranny versus the divine providence of God. Do this for your families. Do it for your homes. Cast your vote. Do it for the sake of your children's future. Vote. Do it to honor those who have sacrificed to protect your right to vote, and go vote. Don't be afraid. Strengthen that resolve that is within you. The path to show everyone that our divine creator leads us. That is the path we are on, and he does lead us. So in his name, pursue all of this. Pursue the ultimate goal of justice. That is our triumph. Together, and again, I'll say it, we the people are going to restore President Trump to the White House. Yes, vote early. Glad you did it, Patricia. Bank the votes and get out there. Now, normally, I would be saying vote on Election Day because that's what God inspired and the founding fathers put down in our founding documents. I don't want there to be any shenanigans that would prevent you from getting to the polls. We will work on returning to Election Day. We need to make that a national holiday. The election month cannot be a thing. We've got to get away from that. We've got to get a grip on absentee mail-in ballots and so forth and so on. Those are all topics for another day. But feel confident in your resolve. You stand together, shoulder to shoulder, upon the very foundation that God himself has provided for this republic and the intent of the founding fathers. We, MAGA conservatives, have the moral high ground, whether it be from the perspective of secured borders, anti-crime, pro-life movement, all of it. We have the moral high ground, and it's nothing about which we should be ashamed. Quite the contrary. Great hope abounds out there, you guys. Trump is ascending in every single state. Think about that. And again, I'm not saying he's going to win every state, although he's going to come close to doing that. But every state is showing an uptick of his numbers from where he was in 2016 and 2020. Black men, black women, white men, white women, Latinos especially. We have the Generation Z movement. You just name me a demographic, and I'll show you a demographic that is trending up for President Trump. And it shouldn't surprise us because the nightmare is so bad that the radical left movement has created in this country. We're in this together, ladies and gentlemen, shoulder to shoulder. Please remember, head over to my website, dougbillings.us. Follow over there. If you're on Facebook, follow me. Share these live broadcasts. On X, do the same thing. YouTube, please go to YouTube. Look for The Right Side with Doug Billings. Subscribe. I'm trying to rebuild the channel over there after they canceled me with no warning because, of course, I'm conservative. Follow me and share the program. We have got to get the message out. Great hope in America, ladies and gentlemen, tonight and always. Don't let the radical left chaos get you down. We are there. We will be there. Trump will, from 45 to 47. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that does it. I'll see you either later today or tomorrow. We're going to broadcast, I hope, at least twice, if not once a day, up through the election. God bless you. For the Republic, ladies and gentlemen. Cheers.